How's it going, guys? I've got a new video today, and it's a little bit different than what I normally post on my channel, but I think it'll be pretty fun and will probably interest quite a few of the subscribers and maybe some of you guys who don't subscribe. But anyways, I'm building a new home theater PC, and I'm using one of the new Intel NUCs, and this thing is tiny, and I'll take it out of the box and show it to you guys here in a second. Anyways, the reason for this is because my current home theater PC is just a massive full-sized PC. It's loud and draws a whole bunch of power, and just wanted to get something a little bit smaller, quieter, and a little bit more efficient. So this is what I've got here, and before I show you the unit itself, I'll show you what you need to get this project going. This is sort of a DIY thing. It doesn't come fully out of the box ready to go. This is what's called a bare bones unit, and what it means is it has the basics that you need in terms of the core hardware. It has a CPU, the motherboard, the unit itself, the power supply, and what you need to provide are the hard drive and the memory. And this thing uses just your standard laptop memory here, and any SSD SATA hard drive. They have a couple of different models. This one that I got is a little bit thicker than one of the other models, and the reason for that is that it accommodates a full-sized SSD hard drive, whereas the other one uses a micro or mSATA drive, I believe it's called, and it's sort of about the size of a stick of RAM, but it has the same capacity. I didn't have any of those laying around, so I went ahead and just got this one because I had the drive already at the house. So what you will need for the project is the memory, a USB stick for your operating system, home theater PC keyboard if you're going to be using it from the couch. This is a Logitech K400R. I've been using this for a while. I really like it. It's really easy to use. Just plug it in and go. You also need a screwdriver, and most importantly, you will need a micro HDMI or mini HDMI to standard HDMI adapter. You have to have that because the adapter or the HDMI plug on the back of the unit does not accommodate a full-size HDMI cable, which you'll also obviously need. So here's the power supply. Now this is not going to be like a complete unboxing. I've already taken the thing out and turned it on, make sure it worked, just because I didn't want to get this video going and have the thing just be a brick out of the box. So anyways, I'm going to get this tripod mounted up and we're going to get going here. Alright, so this is the unit itself in the box. Now what you can see is that I have applied a carbon fiber wrap to the little top part of mine. I had some left over from another project I'm working on, so I thought it would be neat to sort of dress it up a little bit and just cut out the hole for the power button and the hard drive activity light. Kind of hard to see there. So anyways, on the back, let's get this in focus. You have the HDMI, two USB 3s, Ethernet, a mini DisplayPort, power. This is the exhaust from where the CPU fan cooling comes from, intake vent, another intake vent, Kingston lock, and you have another USB 3, another USB 3, and this one I believe supplies power even if the unit is off. So if you have like a cell phone, tablet, whatever, it will charge. A full-sized iPad, one of the new ones, I've already tested that, so it's a fully powered port. And then you have your speaker and headphone jack output, and then you can't see it here, but there's an infrared sensor behind there, so any Windows home theater remote will work with this unit. So really handy. So anyways, what else in the box? Some documentation here. You have your VESA mount for mounting it to the back of a TV or a monitor. And you have a couple of different adapters for the different countries for the power adapter. And VESA mount screws. Alright. So to get started here, you flip the unit over and you'll notice that there are 4 screws with little rubber feet. And what you do is you just, I've already loosened them up here, but you take your screwdriver, loosen those up, and the easiest way that I've found to get this off, like, because they want to kind of like go back into threads just a little bit when you let go of them, it's just to simply turn it upside down and let gravity do the work. There we go. And this just sort of opens up like this. It's held in with your SATA data cable and your SATA power cable. Now this is all there is to assembling this unit. This is your hard drive tray, the caddy. So you take your drive, you got your ports here, it goes in, and you'll see on the inside the ports that the connectors attach to. There's only one way for them to go. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but there's a little L-shaped bracket on the edge of the small port and the larger power port connector. So there's only one way for it to go in. You just slide in, and that's pretty much it. And it's got a little resistance, so it's not going to slide out. And for the memory, as you can see, one side is bigger than the other, and on the sockets on the motherboard here, you'll see the corresponding one side is small, one side is large here. And to get it in there, it just easily slips in, and then press it down against the board, and it clicks just like that. And if you have a second stick, just do the same thing. Click in. That's all there is to it. It's pretty simple. There's only one right way that those parts can go in there. So in a way, it is a bit idiot-proof. And once these are tightened back down, it's ready to go. That's it. That's all there is to it. Okay, so I've got everything hooked up, and really all it is plugging in your adapter for the HDMI, your regular HDMI cable into that. If you got the same Logitech keyboard that I've linked in the description below, and what I'm going to do is, just to make it really easy for the first timer who maybe wants to try this out, I'll put a link in the description of the video to every single part that you need to buy to make this project happen. A link to the same little NUC box that I've bought, a thumb drive that I really like, the memory that I've used, the same SSD or one that I would highly recommend. Take all the guesswork out of it for you. So if you're interested in doing all this from scratch, then I highly recommend checking out some of the products that I've linked in the description below. So anyways, once you plug it in and turn it on, the unit will automatically power on. And assuming that your TV is on and your keyboard's plugged in, for this particular keyboard, to get into the BIOS, you have to hit F2. Now for this keyboard, this media keyboard, there's a row of function keys on there. So like, say for instance, a laptop where you have a little function key down there at the bottom of the keyboard. When the unit powers on, you have to hold down function and then also be hitting F2 so that it goes into the BIOS. So when you get into the BIOS, this is the first screen that you're going to see here. It's just sort of a general overview of the unit with fan speed, temperatures, and things like that. So anyways, there are a couple of things that you do need to do in here, and I'm going to show you exactly what those things are in order to get the unit to boot up onto the thumb drive and get your operating system installed. The first thing that you're going to need to do is disable the UEFI, and this UEFI boot right here. Uncheck that box and make sure on the Legacy tab that you see your SATA drive here. If you have your thumb drive plugged in, then you'll also see that also. If you've got your operating system installed onto a bootable thumb drive, which again I'm going to show you how to do in the link below in the description, then you can go ahead and put that in while you're in the BIOS here. So I've put my thumb drive in, and it has a copy of Windows 8.1 on there, and this video is also going to show you how to do a Windows 10 installation, assuming that you have Windows 8 or Windows 7 already installed and have done the upgrade to Windows 10 through Microsoft. I'm going to show you how to do a clean installation. But anyways, so the first thing you got to do is make sure you uncheck UEFI boot, and the reason for that is because sometimes the boot media just does not play well with the UEFI. When you go to install Windows, it'll basically say we can't install Windows on this hard drive. So uncheck that, make sure legacy boot is checked, and you're good to go. Okay, the next thing you need to do is check your memory, and right here it says total memory 6 gigs, so that means that our memory is showing up just how we want it to. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your time is set right. So it's 2:57 p.m. right now here, and if you need to change that, there's an option here where you can click that just says change, and right here is where you would change it to whatever time it needed to be. Alright, and now that we've checked all those things and we've got our thumb drive inserted, all you have to do is either hit this X here to exit out of the BIOS or hit F10 to save and exit, and if you hit the X right here, it'll ask you if you want to save the changes. So because we've made changes, we do want to save those, so hit yes. Alright, before we go into the boot menu, I'll actually show you an easier way to do this if you want to. It's just an option back on the main page under the Legacy tab. You'll see it has your SATA drive, your hard drive. This is the thumb drive. Now this won't show up unless you actually boot up the unit from the powered off state with the flash drive inserted. So that's what I did. So I'm back in the BIOS again with the thumb drive put in, and then you have your Ethernet adapter here. So what you do is you just simply drag and drop the USB drive, and it'll move it to the top of the list here. So now it's got the USB drive, the hard drive, and then the Ethernet. So with it set like this, that means that the system is going to check for a bootable source on this USB drive first instead of looking on it for the hard drive. Now if you've bought a new hard drive, it's obviously not going to find anything to boot from there. So what we're going to do is just tell it, just go to the USB drive first. So we've made that change. I'm going to hit X. I want to save these changes, and when it restarts, I'm going to hold down the function key and hit F10 if I haven't changed this. If you set this, you don't have to do anything. So because I've done that, just hit yes, and we're going to let the system take care of it itself. Alright, any key to boot from USB. I don't know if the camera caught that, but it asked me to hit any button to boot from the drive, so I did. And now here is the Windows boot logo. And once that finishes loading, we have our initial setup screen here where it asks us about our language, currency, and stuff like that. So you need to obviously set it to what it needs to be for where you are, but anyways, we're going to leave it at all the defaults for now. Install. And after this, we're going to see a license agreement. Click to accept it, hit next. Now I'm going to do custom install, and here's my hard drive. And what I'm going to do is, because I've already used this drive in the past, I'm going to go ahead and format it to erase any data that's currently on there. And once that's complete, I'm just going to hit next. And sit back and as it copies the files from the USB drive and installs Windows, and once that's finished, I'll see you guys at the configuration screen. Okay, on this screen we are being asked for the CD key, and this is where you put your product key in if you've got it probably on either on the box or the piece of slip of paper that came with your disk. Because I have already activated and used this product, I have slightly modified or added a file to the thumb drive that allows me to skip this, which again I'll show you how to do in the product or in the video description. So anyways, I'm just going to hit skip, and it's going to go through the usual personalization stuff. So give it a name. Let's call it NUC HTPC, and next. And I do not want to use express settings. I want to make sure that I can set the privacy settings the way that I want them to be. This is really important because Microsoft wants to kind of intrude a little bit in terms of what they want to collect from you, information, where you go, what websites you visit, things like that, that I'm always a little bit cautious about who gets to know what. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit customize down here. For the Windows updates, I don't want it to automatically do that. I want to set that up myself, so I'm just going to say don't set up Windows Update. For automatically attaining drivers for devices and things like that, I'm going to leave that on, and I don't want it to update my apps. I'm not really going to use any apps. For the PC and privacy, I turn, let's see, this is for this Windows Smart Screen. You can leave that on. Do not track, I can leave that on. Hit next. Windows error reporting, I don't want that. Compatibility list for Internet Explorer, no, I don't want that. And this is all the help us improve your experience by letting us know what you do with our operating system, so I turn all that stuff off, leave it off by default. And share information with Microsoft, I don't think so, so I'm turning all of this off. And next, name, and I'll not worry about the password right now because Windows 10 gives you the option to use a PIN, which is awesome. Alright, because I didn't put in a password, it just threw me right into the operating system. Now if you've already upgraded to Windows 10, then you can ignore this step, but if you're still using Windows 7 or Windows 8 and have ran Windows Update anytime recently, down in the task menu down here where the clock and volume and internet connection activity is, you'll see a little Windows logo, and that indicates that you're queued up to get the update. And if you go to Windows Update, then it will basically download Windows 10 and install it just like it would any other Windows update. So from this point, you can either use Windows 8 if that's what you've bought, or Windows 7 or whatever, but this video is going to sort of dive into Windows 10 just a little bit because I think it's an interesting new OS, not without some concerns, but it's certainly worth looking at because it's brand new and there are a lot of questions about it. But anyways, so if you've registered your copy of Windows 7 or Windows 8 and you have gone to Windows Update and seen the option to update to Windows 10, you can go ahead and do that. It will kick off the installation and it'll basically install the OS in a very similar manner to what you just saw with Windows 8 with a couple of different things, but the one thing I do need to stress about it is that you need to pay attention to what it asks you to turn on and off in terms of privacy, what kind of information you share with Microsoft and things like that, because there are some things that I recommend turning off. Okay, so now that we're in Windows, the first thing you're going to notice is that down here it will say that you don't have any internet connection, and that's because we don't have any drivers installed. So to do that, if you check the link in the description, has a link to Intel's driver webpage to download the drivers for the little NUC box. So anyways, I'm going to go to this folder down here, and I've got those drivers downloaded to the thumb drive. And Intel NUC files and drivers. And I'm just going to go to the LAN drivers right here and run that. Okay, I'm just going to use the default selections and install. Alright, and once this finishes, okay, it's asking me if I want to find networks. No, I don't care about that right now. So once this finishes, really all you have to do is, if this is a copy of Windows 7 or like I have here 8, all you have to do is go to Windows Updates and you'll find your upgrade to Windows 10 waiting for you as long as you've registered your copy of Windows. So we're going to finish this, and if you've updated, then you can just ignore that. But if you are moving to a Windows 10 installation, I'm going to go ahead and simulate that by manually running the Windows 10 install from a thumb drive, just like I did with Windows 8. So stay tuned and I will be right back. Alright, so I've booted from my Windows 10 bootable thumb drive here, and it looks extremely familiar. It's basically the same thing as Windows 8. So we're going to hit next to continue. We're going to install. And it's basically going to do the exact same thing as before. It's going to ask us about the license agreement, then it's going to ask us about the hard drive, and once you get to after the copying and installation of the OS, it's going to start asking you about your privacy settings and things like that. And some things are different. Okay, so enter your product key. Now here's a neat thing. If you've upgraded to Windows 10 already from Windows 8 or Windows 7, you don't need to do this because your key for Windows 7 and Windows 8 is you're going to be your Windows 10 key. So basically you can skip this using this option down here and proceed as usual. And if this was a retail copy of Windows 10, then you would obviously put that in there. So we're going to accept the agreement and hit next. Custom install again. I don't want anything from before. This is essentially going to be how to do a clean install from scratch of Windows 10. So we're going to go ahead and format the drive. Okay, delete everything. And if you've already done your upgrade from Windows 7 or Windows 8 to Windows 10, you can perform this clean install on a brand new hard drive. You don't have to upgrade the hard drive first or install Windows 8 from scratch all over again first and then upgrade to 10. You can just install it straight onto a brand new hard drive, assuming that you've already registered your copy of Windows 7 or 8 for that Windows 10 upgrade once already. And because I already went through that with this little Intel NUC, it basically remembers the motherboard that your device has and says this motherboard has been registered for Windows 10 already, so regardless of what hard drive is put in there and Windows is installed to, it will always register because it has that same motherboard being used. So I'll see you guys once this is finished copying. Alright, so once the operating system is done installing, you're going to see this product key prompt, and since we're not going to be using one because we've already activated, we're going to say do this later down here. Now again, this is where we're going to change our privacy settings. So instead of using the express settings down here, we're going to say we want to customize the settings. Now for the personalization, I want to turn everything off. I don't want to send typing data, I don't want to send personalized information, I don't want apps to advertise, and I'm going to turn the location off. Now that can be left on if you want to use the weather app, but since I don't do that, I just turn that off. Go to next. Smart screen, you can leave that on. Page prediction, I don't want that. Connectivity and error reporting, I don't want that. I don't want to automatically connect to hotspots. I don't want to connect to a Wi-Fi connection I don't trust. I don't want to automatically connect to anyone's network unless I have their permission, and I don't want to send error reports. So basically turn all that off. You can leave smart screen on, that's alright. Hit next. Okay, and on this screen we see the question, who owns the PC? Since this is our own personal computer, we're going to say I own it. Make it yours. I do not want to do this, so we're going to skip this step. Just going to use PC, my name. Okay, so now we're booted into our operating system here. This is Windows 10, and the first thing I want to do is go and grab some essential software for this operating system. And while that all is installing, I'll start doing a couple of operating system customizations here that I consider to be kind of the essentials. So anyways, I'm going to open up this new snazzy web browser that's still not as good as Chrome in my opinion. And we're going to go to Ninite, Ninite.com. And what this does is this website has an automated software installer where you pick any of these programs to install. So we're going to grab Chrome, we're going to grab 7-zip, VLC media player, because it will pretty much play anything, Java, TeamViewer, Revo uninstaller. Now if you don't like this start menu that Microsoft have added to Windows 10, what you can do is download Classic Shell right here, and it'll put a traditional Windows 7 style classic or start menu down and replace this one. We're going to leave that alone for now. Can you get Adobe Reader? I'll leave that. I'll come back to that later. Malwarebytes is pretty good for removing spyware, and we'll just leave it at that for now. So we're going to say git installer. It's going to automatically download, so we're going to run that. And what this does is it will download all of those things automatically and install them automatically. And if there's any bloatware that comes along with it, like with Java, for example, it will automatically decline any of the additional third-party crap that they bundle in there. So while that's downloading and installing, let's go ahead and add the icons back to the desktop, like my computer, and I like to have the control panel there. So we're going to go to personalize, and in the settings we're going to go to themes, and then desktop icon settings, and we're going to add computer, can do users, files, and control panel. And there we have our desktop icons back. So because it's not my computer icon is not actually in the start menu, what you can do if you want it there also, you can right click on where it says this PC and say pin to start, and that will add a tile right there for my computer. So now that we've done that, let's go to settings, which is still open here. Click the little gear, takes us to the main settings menu, and we're going to go to updates and security down here at the bottom, and we want to go to the advanced options for Windows Update. Let's see, choose how these updates are delivered. And if you'll notice, it will say that Windows updates will be able to grab internet or grab updates from other people's PCs on the internet, as well as allow other people's PCs on the internet to grab Windows update files from your computer. And I don't know about you, but I don't want Microsoft authorizing, a peer-to-peer connection to essentially suck more bandwidth from my internet connection. This can be particularly bothersome if you have a metered connection, sort of like your cell phone. Like you wouldn't want Verizon or AT&T or whoever using up your data plan without your consent, and they turn this on by default. So what we're going to do, you have the option to just straight up turn it off if you want, or you can have it so that your own PCs only on your network at your house can share Windows Update files. So I'm going to do that because that doesn't cost me any bandwidth. So once we get back there, you can check on how this is doing. Pretty much everything is done. And what you'll also notice is back in Windows 8, you noticed, so if we go to Windows X and pull up the device manager here, you'll notice that only one thing is missing drivers, and that's the SM bus controller, and that can be installed if we go to our thumb drive where our drivers are. found it in the chipset. So we're going to set up the chipset now. Okay. And now, and by the way, you can right click the start menu to pull up this. You'll see that it's been installed, so that's good. The next thing that we want to do is configure our graphics settings. And to do this, down in the taskbar down here, click the little Intel graphics logo, go to the control panel. Alright, so in the main menu here, we're going to go to the 3D settings and general settings, and we're going to select performance. Apply that. And then we're going to go to the menu again. Go to the power here, and we're going to go to maximum performance. This is based off of an Intel Ultrabook chipset, and basically what they did for this little NUC box is they took the Intel Ultrabook motherboard, separated into two pieces, sandwiched it together, and then put it into this tiny little box. So basically some of these things you're seeing apply to laptops, and because this is powered on all the time through a power adapter, we can just basically max out all the performance settings and everything like that, so we get the best possible video playback performance. So we'll close that because we're done. And the last thing I want to install, see, those are all done, is a program called Kodi, and it used to be called XBMC if you're familiar with that. It was a really good media center program. You can go to Kodi.tv, and over here download Kodi. And while that's downloading, I'll also show you that we did grab, I've downloaded this this BIOS update for the NUC box, and I haven't run it yet because once I did so, I probably couldn't run it again. So I'm going to show you how to update your BIOS here. And again, on that Windows update, or excuse me, the drivers page for the Intel NUC, they're going to have a few different BIOS options to download, and I just downloaded the Windows installer. You can download just the pure BIOS file and update it through the BIOS itself, but I like the handy little Windows executables. They're usually pretty foolproof, so we're gonna roll with that and kind of experience that one together. Anyways, Kodi is done downloading. Just gonna install that. I just install everything enabled. And once that's done, we will see about this BIOS update. One other thing I did forget to mention is that you can get better Wi-Fi performance if you enable the WMM in your Wi-Fi settings. So to do that, we're going to go to Open Network and Sharing Center down here at the bottom right, and then go to Change Adapter Settings, and then we're going to look for our Wi-Fi. Right click that and go to Properties, and then we are going to look down here, Configure. And on this screen, if you go to Advanced, you're going to select Ad Hoc QoS mode, and you see how when you click that it says a WMM is disabled. If I click that and enable it, it's basically going to potentially, if your router supports WMM, and you can check that in your router administrator control panel in the QoS settings, you can hit OK. Alright, so in my NUC drivers download, I have my BIOS file. So I'm going to run this. Welcome to the BIOS installer. This will update your BIOS. Continue. Alright, accept. Continue. Ready to install BIOS. Restart required. So it pops up this little button that says restart and install BIOS. So let's see what happens. Okay, so this is different. So it's definitely okay. It's automatically installing here. So it showed current version, updating to the new version, updating all the firmware, blah 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 blah. All right, we're done, and it's automatically rebooting for us. Congratulations. All right, finish. Okay, so there's another option we can do down here. If you see, Windows 10 has this big start search bar down here. What you can do is you can right click on that and go to search, and you can either have it only show a magnifying glass to search or just completely gone. Search icon is the search feature in Windows 8 and Windows 10 is actually pretty handy, so I'm just going to leave it as the little magnifying glass. And as you can see, it's nice and out of the way. Reclaimed a whole lot of real estate on that start bar. Alright, another thing that I would like to offer up is some pretty cool wallpapers that I found for a home theater PC. And for a home theater PC, I think that the simple, really clean, minimal wallpaper works really well in my opinion. So once again, I'll have links to these wallpapers. There's a couple of them here. There's this one. It's a brushed metal. I think it looks really cool. It's nice and minimal. And then another one here. The Galaxy, again, very minimal, something that icons won't get lost on. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and set this as the desktop background, this brushed metal one, and it gives it a nice, really nice clean look. And you can see, zoom in, how it has that sort of a brushed metal, brushed aluminum look to it. Let's see, one more thing. Display settings and change our resolution. Okay, it's at 1080. So that might not have automatically been set, so that's one thing to check on. Another thing that this is good for is Steam streaming. This makes a great little streaming box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video here, and I'm going to go ahead and install Steam and get that set up so you don't have to sit here and wait through that, and I will see you here in 1 second. Alright, so now that Steam is installed and a couple of other things, I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So I'm going to launch Steam, and I've got a 360 controller hooked up here. Alright, and I've got this connected to my gaming PC downstairs, which has a 980 Ti and 4770K, so it's capable of streaming pretty much at max settings at 1080 60. So we're going to go to my library, go ahead and fire up Path of Exile here. Stream from, no, I don't want to stream from my laptop. Let's change it to my PC downstairs. And downloading. I'll bet there's a patch. Okay, so I finished downloading the patch, so we're ready to go. Alright, and we are at 1080 60 here. Let's go to the docs. And with a game with as much of a sensitivity to latency as this, you can see that it's essentially like sitting right in front of my computer downstairs. So for Steam streaming, this thing is great, assuming you have a decent LAN connection at your house. Alright, so let's go back out of here and check out something else. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is emulation, which this thing can run pretty much any emulator that you want really well. So I've got SNES 9X here. So I'm going to open that up. And I've got a couple of games here. The important ones at least. And let's see, let's just go with good old Mario World. So, as you can see, no problems with emulators. Alright, so I guess I'll close up this video basically by saying I really think this is a cool little device. It's it is a fully featured computer in a tiny little form factor. Like I said, this one's not actually the smallest one you have the option to get. I just got this one just so I could use my own stuff that I already had. So, you know, for something basically the size of a little bit bigger than an Apple TV, you get a fully functioning Windows PC with an i5 CPU, which is the one that I've gotten here, an SSD that you can swap out for any size SSD that you want, 2 memory slots so you can have 16, 24, 32 gigs, whatever DDR3 RAM you want, and basically, who is this thing for? Like, what kind of person needs one of these in their house? I think that if you have, if you watch a lot of movies and you also want something that can do a little bit more in terms of getting productivity done, running Microsoft Office from your couch, streaming games from a Steam PC to your couch, this is something that can do that. I think that the Kodi Media Center is extremely cool. It lets you you can stream Twitch channels. Oh, it's got Spotify. You can if you're a Spotify subscriber, you can do that. I mean, really, it can do anything that a regular PC can do. And I mean, this doesn't have to be used for a home theater PC. It can be used, as a primary computer at your house or office or whatever. It's not really that expensive, and obviously takes up hardly any space and can be mounted to the back of an LCD panel that has the VESA mounting using the supplied plate with the little nut box. You can play 4K video, stream 4K video if you have any 4K videos, source files on a hard drive or whatever. You can stream that, and as soon as it gets more proficient with Netflix and other streaming services, you can it's not going to have any problems doing that. It's got the graphical horsepower to drive those files, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I held off on getting one of these for so long, is because they really didn't have the juice to stream local HD 4K up to 4K video from a hard drive, and that's something that I wanted to have the option to do in the future, so I held off until these came out. So overall, I'm really happy with it. I think it's a great little unit, super tiny, super quiet, super powerful. Don't expect to run many games natively on this. Like I said, it can run emulators pretty good. You can probably get roughly 30 frames per second on Diablo 3 if you set everything as low as it'll go. Diablo 2 wouldn't be too much of a problem. Think along those lines in terms of graphical demands. Older games from like the 90s, early 2000s, you're probably going to not have any issues with, anything with a source engine that's, relatively old. Not going to have any issues with that. So anyways, thanks for sitting through all this, and I hope you learned something. If you do want to give it a shot, I have as many links as I can think of that would be a help to you in the video description, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. And there's plenty of other videos, reviews for this thing, so you can get even more information before you make a decision. So anyways, thanks for checking it out. If you like it, hit the subscribe and like button. Maybe I'll do some more stuff like this in the future. If you want to see that, just let me know. Thanks.